Welcome to the program, The Uganda We Want, and this is part 2. We have Mr. Dickens Kamugisha. He is the Executive Director for Africa Institute for Energy Governance. He's sharing with us the kind of Uganda that he would like to see. Thank you so much again for giving us your time to speak to the nation about the kind of Uganda that you envision. Let me just give you a few seconds and greet our viewers.
Thank you very much, and I'm sending greetings to all of you, our viewers and listeners. Okay. I hope you are enjoying the program.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, last time, amongst the many things that you talked about, this my pick of from that edition, the Uganda you want starts with me. I have a responsibility to make sure that if it is to fight corruption, if it is to make sure that I tap the energy resources, it starts with me, even if it comes to leadership. If I say as a Ugandan that we have bad leadership or bad leaders or poor leaders or weak leaders, it as well starts with me to make sure that I actually pull down that bad leadership I'm talking about. You know? Yes. So that was my take from the first episode. And you were talking about the obstacles that we, that we have when it comes to, the energy industry here in Uganda. Why it's not as it is. Could you please summarize for us the other obstacles briefly, and then we talk about something else?
Yeah, of course, there are many other obstacles that are failing this country to ensure that citizens get the right, affordable, and reliable clean energy. One of the other areas is that the government does not consult the citizens on the kind of energy they want. Because as we said, there are many different types of energy sources. You can get from hydro through the grid. You can build small dams because we have rivers in different parts of Uganda. Right now we have around 30 small dams in different parts. The biggest problem has been when they build those small dams in different places, they again put the power in the grid. And all the obstacles in the grid, they actually affect that power. But assuming if you build a dam on River Musizi, and you actually sure that that power is given to those people, you don't need to build big transmission lines that are going to run for 100 kilometers. If you would say you have built a solar plant in Tororo for 10 megawatts, and you ensure that the people, the households in that area are the ones consuming that power. So the failure to consult citizens, especially in different areas, on the kind of energy they need, what they can afford, and what they think can improve their lives, is one other obstacle, because the government thinks they know it all, and so they plan as if the people are not stakeholders. I would want to see that actually that should stop, that before we build the dams, before we build transmission lines, before we build the smaller dams, before we put money in these bigger solar projects, we have to consult people on what they can afford and how they want to use it.
Yeah, we do have, what we call policy frameworks, for the energy sector. For example, you know it very well. We have the Electricity Act 1999.
Yes, which was just amended recently.
The Energy Policy for Uganda 2002.
Yes.
The Renewable Energy Policy for Uganda 2007.
Yes.
We do have the Atomic Energy Act 2008. Yes. We as well have Power Africa Uganda Electricity Supply Accelerator 2018.
Yes.
Who makes these policies? And whom do they consult?
Yeah, to make it, yeah, you can imagine even the Electricity Act 1999. I don't think there are people who actually participated in the enactment of that. There is a recent amendment of 2002. Where Parliament actually decided to do those amendments without consulting people. Even us, we forced ourselves to submit comments. We requested
2012.
It was 2022.
2020.
I'm very sorry.
2022.
2022.
Yes. Yeah.
We actually submitted comments to Parliament and requested that we want to appear with some other stakeholders to present our positions. They ignored our calls to appear. So first and foremost,
really?
Yes, these are very huge and very costly projects. It does not make sense for you to go and make laws without consulting people, start projects without consulting people, and then after you have started all those projects, they produce products that people can't enjoy. As I said, that in 2022, 2023, we are going to spend 193 billion Uganda shillings to pay for power because that power can't be consumed, that people have no capacity, no money. Of course, they want the energy, but they have no money to pay for it. So they use our taxes of 193 billion to pay for power, assuming you decide to give that power for free to health centers, people who have clinics, to schools, people who have schools. It means you can actually reduce the costs of health services. You can reduce the costs of education so that households can be able to get those health services, those education services at a cheaper cost. Instead of just paying and the power is just redundant there. So consultations are very, very important. But as we said, if you have the obstacle that they don't consult, and I don't know why they don't consult, because they think actually the government thinks you small people, there is nothing they want to get from you.
What will Afiego say?
What will Afiego do? What will Maranz say? So in other words, if we organize and say that there is no way we can accept you to make a law as parliament, or if you as an MP, you go in parliament and you make a law without consulting us, be sure you can never get another vote. You can't even attend our...
Still, it has come back to me.
You can't even attend...
Voter.
Yes, because for me, I believe that, we Ugandans, we have every channel appropriate to ensure leaders behave. When these MPs, they sit here in parliament and they pass that amendment of electricity, when without electricity, you can't run a health service, a clinic, a hospital. Without electricity, it is hard to have the best schools. Without electricity, you can't have clean water. And these guys come here and sit and they don't consult you. Assuming the churches decide, they will not be inviting. Even if an MP comes to church, they don't give you a microphone to greet people. Because if you don't consult them on fundamental things, why should they give you a microphone to speak to people?
Where we needed you,
yeah,
you didn't help us.
Now you come, you want to do your politics. Why? And whether he comes to a burial, don't give him that MP a microphone. Whether he gives to a wedding, don't chase the person away. But you must set standards that you as our leader, these are the things you must do. If you don't do them, then we also don't need you. So for me, I know we can create pressure. You have these other obstacles in electricity, where you will find that actually, like for example, when they are going to build a dam, there is what they call power purchase agreements. A contract between the government and the company that is building that dam. So if you find the terms and conditions of that agreement is the one that will determine whether you get the right product or a bad product. We've been calling on government, can you make those agreements public? That me and you, we do what? We can read. There are some of us who can read and understand.
There is one that sneaked and we got to note. Some contracts have not been done in the right way.
In the right way. So when there is like that secrecy, lack of transparency in the sector, it is part of corruption. But you see, some people can be transparent and be corrupt still. But here, they decided to ensure that all the contracts in the electricity sector, they can't give them to the public. So meaning that, yes, I'm the consumer, and this product that is the project that is being implemented, it is my taxes, but you don't want me to access information relating to that project. That's the reason why you'll find whether it is Umeme that is here. People are crying about that concession, but who has access to that concession? Whether it is Bujagari, which was commissioned in 2012,
2012,
up to
yeah.
now we cannot have access to those agreements. So at the end of the day, you'll find if you a leader who cannot be open to the citizens, it is very difficult for that leader to do what the citizens want. So that is also an area that has been there. You have also of course the culture in Africa here and Uganda inclusive, is that people have been using this traditional energy, firewood and charcoal, since our great grandparents and ourselves, even us in town, we are using that wood. And we think that wood is free, so meaning that there is no need for me to look for another source of energy. Even with all the health obstacles, with destruction of the forests, we still think that actually they are cheap, they are free. So we don't struggle to put pressure on the leaders to give us the clean energy that can reduce, that can enable us shift from destroying forests to use that clean energy. So because of that feeling, that perception that forests, wood, trees are free, somehow we don't think that actually we need to stop use of firewood. Because the use of firewood, you know, these days they are talking about climate change. When you hear in Kasese, in eastern region, Mbare and other areas, floods taking people, mudslides. Now these days, you know, you can't even know when is the right season for you to plant and when it is the season when you are not supposed to plant. Because of the changes in the climate. You have most of these areas that are bordering rivers and lakes. You know, most of them now are submerged. There are people who had invested heavily in those areas and all of them got submerged. So in other words, climate change is real, and we know destroying these critical resources like forests, wetlands, contribute heavily on climate change. And we know if we are 45 million Ugandans today, and we cannot have clean energy for cooking, for boiling water, and we have to continue cutting down the forests, be very sure that we are worsening our situation. We will not have enough food to eat. The floods are going to continue harassing us. The mudslides are going to continue. The seasons are going to continue changing. So at the end of the day, we will find that fighting to get clean energy must be a do or die.
A do or die.
Yes, if you don't do it and ensure you get clean energy. And when I talk of clean energy, it must be affordable. And it must be that clean. It must be reliable. Because the reliable energy is the one that I can say, affordable, reliable energy is that I can decide what are my energy needs. Because my energy needs, you'll find I have to cook, I have to have a TV, I have to charge my phone, I have to have a fridge, I have to have lights. So I have to boil water, I have to iron, those are my energy needs. These days you'll find that of all those energy needs, almost 98% Ugandans can't cook on electricity. They can't boil water on electricity. Many majority can't iron. I've gone to like our town in Tungam. You find someone has electricity in the room. Like the light is
So
on.
when I want to iron my clothes,
But is using a charcoal iron.
Iron, yeah.
So in other words, you ask what is the problem? If I use this electricity, it's too expensive, I will close even the business.
Units are going to run so
yes.
fast.
So meaning that
The units are small.
you have electricity that is not useful.
Yeah.
Because you find cooking, ironing, boiling water actually is the one that is very important for you. It is the one that would save the forest. That if you have the right, just the right, you are going to still continue cutting down the forest. Here in town for us, when we are using charcoal, we even don't know that we are actually the biggest environmental degraders. Because you may think that charcoal comes from heaven. But charcoal comes from these trees. The people who are bringing charcoal here, they go and cut down the forest. So at the end of the day, you'll find when we talk about affordable and reliable clean energy, we have to look at those. And we have discovered that even there are some renewable energies, like hydro, these big dams, which are no longer reliable. Because they are too expensive. Because they are big projects, even these corrupt leaders, they look at them to get huge kickbacks.
What makes them expensive? Because I'm still, that question is still pondering in my mind. What makes it expensive? In the first episode, you told us that the money that we budget for is actually coming from our taxes.
Yes.
Okay? We pay for the generation of power, and when that power comes to me, I as well have to buy it expensively. And I'm tempted to ask you, in reality, who is in charge of power? Is it government or someone else?
Of course, you know,
Did government lose control
that
over
question
this?
is a very, very important question. That, for example, in the last almost 10 years, we've been spending almost 3 trillions Uganda shillings. That is close to $1 billion US on energy. In other words, on dams, on distribution line, transmission lines. So some people have been asking, it is already our taxes. We invest in these energy sources. So why is the power expensive? But you see, at the end of the day, is that whether you build this, you pay money, your taxes build this road. At the end of the day, the road needs maintenance. Where it gets problems, they have to repair it. So that's why even when you go to buy a car, they put a tax for road. Where you go and buy fuel every day,
yes,
they put taxes for this one. So the assumption is that we've used the taxes to build dams, and in some cases the government will go and borrow money from outside because our money is not enough. Our taxes we collect, but finally we have to continue paying the loans from the taxes we have. So, and the assumption was that if they borrow money and invest, for example, in electricity, then I would use electricity. If I have a business here, I'm running a clinic, I would get some money. If I'm running a school, I would get some money. I would maybe use it to pump water into my gardens. So I would get money and pay taxes, and then the taxes would pay the what? The loans. But this is a situation where you find, even after using the taxes, you'll find those services remain too expensive that I can't even enjoy them. So in other words, I can't improve my incomes, I can't improve my welfare, I can't ensure my
cost
kids.
of living.
Cost of living. Yeah. So you are using my taxes to pay for this service. I can't enjoy the service. So the reason why you see Africa, we have remained poor. That you see sometimes, like they have been saying, almost 12 million Ugandans are still living below poverty line.
We are in the middle income status. See,
you see, actually, those are
that the head of this country said so. We are now we are on maintenance.
You know, if you are saying some of those things, like for example, to people in Karamoja who have been starving to death, they would even stone you. Because if you're a middle income country, you should be able to know maybe this region has no food. Let's go to the regions that have food and take food from that area. But also facilitate those areas that may have maybe dry season and whatever to irrigate their area and ensure they get food. So sometimes middle income does not make sense, especially when you still have like 12 million Ugandans living below poverty line. If you ask Ugandans, actually there has been actually like discussions in the media, on social media, that almost less than, like around 1% of Ugandans are the only ones that are earning 1 million and above.
1%?
Yeah, 1%.
1% of the Ugandans.
The rest earn less than 1 million. Just tell me, if you are saying that
10 million,
99% of Ugandans are earning less than 1 million. If you look at the costs like here in Kampala and other urban areas, even in the village, because in the villages, by the way, people no longer have land to grow food. So they have to go to buy posho every day, buy beans, buy food to survive. That's why you see they are saying even malnutrition among children. So it is still a big challenge.
No, I am not good in mathematics, but I want you to help my viewer to really understand. If we are talking about it's a discussion, okay? It's an open discussion in the public domain. If we are saying that 1% and Uganda has, let's go by 42 million Ugandans. Out of the 42 who are earning above.
Actually, to make it easy, is that if we are 100 people here in this studio, it means only one among us is earning 1 million and above. 99 of us are earning less. That is as simple as that. If we are 10 people here, it means only one, then 9 are earning less. And you see, you can see it. Do you know how many, if you are at Entebbe, and you see the Abu Dhabi flight, you see Emirates, you see how many young people are going to Middle East to look for some work. And during the same time, you see the girls are saying, man, their internal organs have been removed.
Before COVID-19,
Yes.
these companies used to advertise jobs starting
Yes.
from 800,
Yes.
900.
Yes.
Now, post-COVID,
Yes.
the advertisements changed in terms of the salary. 1 million and above.
And
You're going to be earning 1 million and above.
They don't tell you even exact amount.
Yeah.
But you see, they make it worse is that they don't go with contracts. The something is that once you reach there, you now will go to negotiate a contract with the person who is going to use you. So it means by the time you leave your country, you don't know the terms and conditions, how many hours you are going to work in a day, even if they gave you even $1,000. Tell me, because some guys tell you that actually they work for 18 hours in a day. They have no off, would say that this is a day to rest. What kind of life is that? I believe even the slaves, some of them were living better than that. But the whole thing is that there are no jobs here. Yes, and that's why we are saying, if, for example, in a country you don't have affordable and reliable electricity, I can assure you it would be extremely hard for you to create opportunities that can lead into jobs. And jobs that are credible. Because sometimes you find there are many Ugandans here who work for 100,000, 200,000. But can you say you are working for 100,000 and say you are working?
You have a family.
You have a family. Even yourself. Just think about it. Because you are not working at your home, it means you have to move from your home to the workplace and come back. You have to eat. You have just, so it is very difficult. So even when they talk about the middle income, is that you will find in middle income, because I've been telling people about Nigeria, that since 1950s, now, in other words, in short, for over 60 years, Nigeria has been selling 2 million barrels of oil per day. So if you want to understand it, is that Uganda is planning to build a refinery of around 30,000 barrels, 60,000 barrels, and then they say in the pipeline they will be transporting maybe 60, 120,000. But Nigeria has been selling 2 million barrels of oil per day. But Nigeria has the poorest person on earth. And it is World Bank information. That if you want the poorest person on earth, you go to Nigeria. If you want the richest person in Africa, the Dongotes, you also go to Nigeria. So you'll find one person, they will say Nigeria has the biggest economy in Africa. But you find the people who are owning that economy are not more than 1 million out of the 190 million in Nigerian. The rest
takes back to the one person.
One person.
Who is earning.
Yeah, so even these middle income things, they are very, very tricky things.
You've talked about oil. Now, you know, the World Oil did a survey, and this is their estimate, that Uganda stands to be one of the sub-Saharan Africa's top 5 oil producers by 2025.
Yeah.
Is oil and gas giving us the Uganda we want?
And those are the things that right from the time, for example, they discovered oil in 2006. We've been saying that, first, in Africa, show me any oil example, any country that is producing oil, that even has been producing for the last, like Nigeria, like Chad, like Angola, like South Sudan, like Equatorial Guinea. Tell me which country in Africa that is producing that oil and is better than even Uganda here. They can have a bigger economy, but people are miserable. So the things that we've been talking about, we've been saying Uganda now discovering oil when all other countries that have been producing oil are suffering. Chad is at war. Nigeria, the Boko Haram and everyone, they are at war. Angola was at war for how many years and it disrupted their development. South Sudan, that is the newest country, and even Sudan itself, they are struggling. Equatorial Guinea, it is struggling. So, in other words, when you discover like oil, the stakes are high. Because oil involves huge amounts of investment Initial investment, we are not talking about investments along the way. Because they are saying, for example, when you are saying by 2025, the estimate is that we will need around 15 to 20 billion US dollars to invest to build the pipeline, build the refinery. Our economy today, our GDP, which is like the net worth, the richness. In other words, when you say you have land, you can say your land is how much? You say maybe 100 million. So in other words, when we say we have Uganda, the assumption is that our Uganda, if we wanted to sell it as a piece of land, we would get 47 billion US dollars. So that is, so in other words, if you have that, your Uganda is equal to, say, 47 billion US dollars. Now you want to borrow around 20 billion US dollars to
invest
in oil, produce oil. Out of the 47 billion US dollars as our GDP, we already have a debt of around 20 billion US dollars, which is over 70 trillion Uganda shillings. So meaning that, of the 47, if you remove 20 billion debt, you remain with
27.
If now you borrow another one, 20 billion,
you will
remain 7. All those are things they take into account. That you are going to be in Nigeria, you produce, but you remain poor. You have the biggest economy, but people...
You're feeding the debt.
Yes. Your people remain miserable.
Your budget.
Exactly. So, and when you look at like our debt of 20 billion US dollars, you'll find that from most of this debt of 20 billion that we have as a national debt has been accumulated between 2012 to date. When Sinok and Total came here, and we saw there were big companies, and so we started saying we are going to start producing. There have been deadlines. Government saying, no, we are going to start producing 2012, 2014, 2018, 2020. Up to now, we haven't started what? But during that time, we've been borrowing money. And this money, we have to pay interest, we have to pay the principal. So in other words, we've been saying, you, the government of Uganda, are you capable of talking of producing this oil in a manner that you will not even destroy this country? They have been doing this environmental social impact assessment because the law requires that, to build a refinery, build a central processing facility, exploring oil in a park, in a wetland, you must do environmental and social impact assessment to evaluate whether this project is worth doing and at what cost. These are things where we even have around 5 cases in court because they are not following the law.
Is it the reason why EU Parliament as well came in?
Yes.
And the opposition here supported?
Some
of the opposition guys
you
supported
see, that EU resolution, it was talking about human rights abuses. For example, in 2012, when they said they wanted to build a refinery and where they are going to build a reserve, where they will put oil before it goes into a pipeline or whatever, if they succeed to build it, is that they displaced over 7,000 people. And those people, they displaced them in Kabari, in Hoima district. Of those 7,000 people, they were around 3,500 women. There were over 1,500 children. Up to now, some of those people, they filed the case in the High Court in 2014 in order to get justice. Up to now, their case is still in court. But the people were chased away from their land. All these people who are like on the ECOP route, the East African Crude Oil Pipeline, where they want to build it. In 2018, they told them there is a cut-off date. We have assessed your property. If you do any development on this land, we shall not pay you more money. 2014 up to now, they haven't been paid. In Terenga area, Burisa area, in Kingfisher area, Hoima area, Chukuve area, people haven't been paid. There are huge activities that are taking place in Machon Falls, roads and everything. They will have to draw water in Lake Albert, which is a transboundary lake. Pipelines have to cross River Nile or under River Nile. All those are things that can cause terrible risks. For example, if the pipeline there is a problem there and there are chaos, there are conflicts, Have you put in mitigation plans in place to ensure they are not, those accidents are going to be avoided? They are not yet in place. And that's what the EU resolution was talking about. Can you ensure that you, Uganda, you don't go into the problems that are affecting other African countries? Because as we said, if you don't have good governance, for example, people don't feel that the decisions are being made with their consent. If you, for example, you go to negotiate the way we talked about Karuma, that for 4 years they can't commission it. Isimba was commissioned in 2019. After 2-3 years, it gets cracks, so it can't continue working the way it is supposed to work. Bujagar Dam that was commissioned in 2012, we can't collect taxes from the investor. We are borrowing money because the tariff is too much that we can't even get anyone to buy that power.
Yeah.
So, meaning if you're going to build the ECOP, the pipeline, which at the beginning they were telling us it was 3.5, it was going to cost 3.5 billion US dollars to build. Before we even start building, they are telling us it is going to cost 5.2 billion US dollars. You never know, by the time they finish it, it will be 10 billion. You have refinery where they said they had gotten a company called RT Global Resources from Russia to build. Then it left because there was a disagreement. Then another company called SK Energy from South Korea, they had selected it to build. Then it left. Now we have some other companies that have not even known. But already over 7,000 people were displaced. 2012 up to now, this is 2022, over 10 years now. There is no refinery, there is nothing, but people suffered. Many children could not stay in school. Small girls got pregnant because they could not stay in school. Small boys married. So in other words, families got disrupted. When you tell those ones that actually oil is going to make them better, they can't even understand you. Yeah.
Well, in summary, about the oil production in Uganda, is oil production in our country a blessing or a curse?
We haven't seen any indications that oil is going to be a blessing for us. As I've said, there are thousands of communities that have already suffered. Their children, their families may never actually see any benefit. We've seen that actually in a country that has corruption the way we are, it is extremely, it is impossible actually to manage oil.
So when the government stance on this is we must produce our oil, and the government believes it's going to be a blessing, are they doing that politically or?
It is political. That's why I'm telling you that when almost only 19% of the people have access to the electricity grid, only 19% of Ugandans. And of even those 19%, over 90% of them cannot use power for cooking. In other words, they use power for rights and whatever. But at the same time, and we are supposed to get Karuma on board. Isimba was on board, but they say we have excess electricity. Of the 1,300 megawatts that we generate, they are saying we can only, during peak hours, we can use maybe 800 megawatts. The rest cannot. During off-peak, of the 1,300, we can only use around 500 megawatts. And they are saying that if you have no capacity to use this power, which is already expensive, we shall use your taxes. And in this financial year, as I said, 193 billion Uganda shillings is going to be used to pay for power that you cannot use. Who makes those decisions? Are Ugandans consulted? Why do you invest in more dams when you can have other sources that can enable people get the power they need?
All right, in just a minute.
So, in other words, the oil that we are talking about, there are no guarantees that the pipelines they are talking about are not going to be inflated. Yep. The refineries are not going to be inflated. That these oil projects in parks, in wetlands, across rivers are not going to destroy those critical biodiversity. that the communities that are being displaced, that are being affected, and are going to be restored to their original lives. Already some, those young girls who could not stay in school, young boys who could not stay in school, they are already a liability to their homes, they are a danger to their home, they are a danger because they are liabilities to a country. So already there are many things that have gone wrong.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
The other Uganda, we will find time
Yes.
and have you to share the other Uganda you would like to see. For today, allow us to stop here. We've been discussing the kind of Uganda that we want with Mr. Dickens Kamugisha. He is the Executive Director for Africa Institute for Energy Governance. Thank you so much for your time. And for now, we say bye-bye.